everyone. Welcome to the eCommert podcast. I'm Mert, and today we're quite excited. And today we're really thrilled to have an extraordinary guest who's very patient and very flexible with us last couple of days while we're preparing for this recording. So I want to thank you personally. Stephan's extensive experience, his contributions, from what I can see, have significantly influenced the e-commerce and digital marketing landscape at his current company. Joining us today, Stephan Waldeis, the Vice President of Digital Direct-to-Consumer at Husqvarna Group. Stephan, welcome to the eCommert podcast. We're super excited to have you with us today.
Happy to be here, Matt. Really excited to be here on the podcast and happy to talk you through a little bit what we are doing at Husqvarna.
We're all ears. We're looking forward to hearing about that. And before I leave the floor to you for your career journey, I want to point out that your career is mostly dedicated to e-business and e-commerce for almost 20 years, which is amazing to me.
Actually, more than 20 years.
More than 2 decades. This is unheard of, man. This is brilliant. Thank you very much. This is amazing. Because the majority of e-commerce directors I've known in our industry have started their career in another function usually and evolved into e-commerce leaders, e-commerce directors in the last 10 years or so. So now with your own words, please tell us about your career progression and where you see the synergies and opportunities are going in our industry before we get into the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you touched on that, maybe starting with a bit of my background, and I'm a bit of an outlier, as you pointed out, as I have done nothing else in my whole career than e-commerce, digital marketing, and driving digital transformation for various different companies. Luckily, after I finished schools at the end of the century, that was the past century. That was basically when e-commerce became a thing, right? End of the 90s, early 2000s. That was when Amazon came into Europe, when first kind of e-com sites popped up, and I was right at that turn. Started my professional career, and I always envisioned myself to be in sales, in marketing, in IT, in all of these areas. And then luckily e-com came into play, and that was exactly my thing at the time. So proud to say that I already have 25 years and counting on my clock, basically within that industry, and run and scaled e-com for various different companies. Started my career on the retail side, actually worked for more than 10 years for a large global retailer and headed up e-com for them, various different markets and categories, and was driving e-com at scale at that time. And then about 15 years ago, I decided to switch from the retail side to the brand and manufacturer side, and now worked for various different companies. And the last 8 years now spent my time at Husqvarna Group. In case you don't know Husqvarna, and we need to speak about your own gardening experience in a minute. Husqvarna is one of the world's leading producers and manufacturers of professional gardening and forestry products. We are well known for our chainsaws, robotic lawnmowers, and a lot of other products that are suitable for your garden, from small-scale residential gardens like you and I have, up to large professional gardens, golf courses, sport places, whatever, you name it. And really happy and fortunate there to scale our e-com activities, running a team of dedicated and super passionate e-com experts across Europe. We are running e-com in 11 European markets, also working closely with our other international colleagues, North America, Australia, etc.
Right. No, this is great. Before we get into the next segue, how did you feel when you switched from retail to brand and manufacturing? Was there any aha moment, or you were prepared and ready?
Yeah, I think the big aha moment, the retailer for which I work, probably as you're an American, I used to work for Office Depot, which is, I mean, in Europe, they are not that well known, but in America, you probably have seen an Office Depot store. Yep. I mean, one of the largest retailer for office stationery, office products, copy paper, pens, you name it. And we have done e-com at scale. At the time when I was there, we did roughly $4 billion in e-com sales. That was in the early 2000s. That was at a time when Amazon wasn't even that big. We have been one of, I think, globally at that time, we have been the number 3rd or 5th biggest e-com player globally at the time across all industries. So I was running e-com at a scale that is unimaginable for many manufacturers these days. So that was the big aha moment when I switched over to the manufacturing side and we spoke about e-com. And I was used to dealing with millions of transactions. And then it was really much more about a scale-up business. So I would say that was the big aha moment. The other thing is, and that's something that's super close to my heart, is the passion for the brand. If you are a retailer, you have a certain passion for your own retail brand. However, it's a completely different ballgame if you're on the manufacturing side and if you work with colleagues who are spending day and night on developing and innovating products and bleed from their heart for the products that we are developing.
No, I'm asking a question because I've never worked for a retailer. I work with a lot of retailers, but I would love to see how complex or how complicated it is working with hundreds, if not thousands of brands, maintaining a massive portfolio while maintaining individual consumer. On the other hand, to your point, everybody is connected and loyal to their brand, to their effort, to their product category. Every intense focus is driven to one group of product. It's a two different world. I wish I had the experience. So you're one of the few who has both sides of the force.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, that's quite helpful in the conversations that we have these days, because I can imagine how it is for a retailer, how it feels like when they need to get our content integrated into their sites. For a brand, it's often not easy to imagine why is it so complex for a retailer to do something different for us than for other brands. How can we position ourselves versus competitor brands, etc.? That's, of course, totally different discussions happening on the retail side. But I found that to be quite helpful because I speak their language. I know how they are dealing, how they are operating.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it's super helpful when it comes to maintaining retail relationships or focusing all the power to the brand side.
Yeah.
Then your experience is really ahead of many of us, I admit, including myself. 20 plus years on e-commerce. This is something significant. Personally, I started in sales and I spent almost a decade in traditional sales and I switched to digital commerce and e-commerce. But given your extensive experience in e-commerce across a couple of industries, how has the ongoing shift for digital commerce and the growth of the digital commerce influencing do-it-yourself and gardening sector specifically in Husqvarna Group and your product category? Where do you see the narrow focus in your industry?
Yeah, good question. And I think, in all honesty, the DIY, the do-it-yourself industry, in which to a certain degree the gardening category is a part of it, is a bit of a late starter into the e-com game. We are one of these categories who started relatively late going into it and really got strongly or really accelerated strongly, especially in the last couple of years in the pandemic. I mean, remember the days of the pandemic. I mean, you couldn't travel anywhere. You had to stay at home. And what were you doing at home? Of course, you spent your time and energy on your house, on your garden, etc. Tidied up your space, took care of the lawn, etc. And that was the time.
Renovate the deck, varnish the deck,
everything, growing tomatoes in the garden and so on. And that was the time where also I think we personally all can very much relate to. I mean, this is when you started going on YouTube, watching hours of tutorials about how to do stuff, etc. And that was then the big boost, I would say, for the DIY industry in Europe when it came to e-com. I mean, if you look into the US, you have, of course, players like Lowe's and Home Depot and so on doing e-com in the DIY industry for a longer time than here in Europe. Most of the DIY chains, I would say, whilst also they have operated e-com sites before the pandemic. Obviously, that gave us the big boost there. And I would say this was really the turning moment also for a lot of brands to rather think about, like ourselves, how can we leverage that? How can we use that to our opportunity? How can we represent our brand? Whilst Husqvarna is a very premium positioned brand where we strongly believe that, I mean, you have to experience our brands in person, our products in person. You have to touch them, to feel them, to test them, etc. Obviously, in the pandemic, that wasn't possible. You couldn't visit one of our specialized dealers that we have, etc. So that was the starting point for us and many others to really accelerate e-com activities, I would say.
When you said premium brand, I remember the first time I saw a robot lawnmower That was a Husqvarna product in the United States. And we're living in suburb, and of course, we have a lot of lawn business, all business giving you lawn mowing and maintenance services. And when I saw Husqvarna was the advertising in the local TV, I said, yeah, I'm a big shopper in the hardware store and the home maintenance store, but I don't see those because most of the time we see much more efficient and affordable options on the store floor. I always remember Husqvarna is one of those innovators coming with the new technology. But this is good for D2C and direct-to-consumer, which is playing into your forte, I think, for your job. But B2C and omnichannel is tough. So how do you balance online direct-to-consumer strategy with traditional retail partnerships to avoid channel conflicts and to maintain the big relationship with the big fish, kind of larger volume businesses?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, really good that you've seen some of our products out in the field. And I tell you something that you probably didn't know. We have been actually the one who innovated that category and created that category. We have created the first robotic lawnmower back in 95. That was even before I started my endeavor into the e-com space. That was when we launched the first robotic mower. I have to confess, the US is a bit of a late starter when it comes to robotic mowers. You see them much more frequently here in Europe.
All right.
In markets like Sweden, our home country, of course, every other garden has a robotic mower, but also Germany, Netherlands, where you're living these days. I mean, you see a lot of robots driving around. So really great.
I want to have one of mine in the backyard because I have a robot in the house. Hopefully, if I have a lawn, I will have one Husqvarna in the backyard as well.
Sure, and then you can buy it online on our Dutch side if you want.
Only if you give me some discount coupons for these.
That's of course always possible, and we can do something. We can do something for your listeners as well. So coming back to your question, and your question was really how do you balance D2C activities together with traditional retail partnerships or channel and the channel conflicts. And I think channel conflicts is something that if you speak with any brand out there, I think any brand is super aware about the channel conflicts that arise when you are starting D2C activities. And I think the way how we manage that and how we deal with that over the past couple of years is a couple of key learnings. First one is thinking customer first. I mean, it's really less about is D2C a more profitable sales channel or why are we doing that? We have to think about what's the added value for the consumer, what's in it for Mert, Stephan, Trixie, whoever buys our products at the end of the day, how can we provide value for them? Secondly, it's being super clear and transparent with your channel partners. I have done D2C now across 3 or 4 different categories, industries, and brands. And one of the key learnings is from day one, reach out to your channel partners, involve them, speak openly with them about it. Don't do it behind their backs. I mean, that's the worst strategy that you can follow. It's really reaching out to them, explaining to them why you believe it is important as a brand to reach out to consumers, and make also clear that at least that's reality for us. We don't do that to compete with our channel partners. We do that because we want to build direct relationships with end customers. We want to learn more about them. We want to learn about their needs. We want to learn about what they care about, what they are interested in. And ultimately with that, want to help our channel partners. And the third one, and I think this is one where we really exceeded at Husqvarna, is I call it go beyond D2C 1.0. And D2C 1.0 is really, I mean, you ship as a brand directly to customers. Going beyond that means how can you involve your channel partners? How can they play an active role in D2C? So in our case, we have products where we ship them straight to the consumer, right? Like a normal D2C operation. But we also have certain products like, let's say, more complex chainsaws where, yes, you can ship them in a box to a consumer, but you as a consumer might feel a bit intimidated by such products. You don't know how to replace a chain on a chainsaw if it's your first one, etc. So these are great products where we involve our channel partners. You can pick them up at a channel partner, so you can order online, but still benefit from picking them up in the physical stores of our channel partners, getting an introduction to the product, testing the product on site, etc. And then, for example, for robotic mowers, it's really about that premium experience in buying the product online, but then having one of our channel partners coming by, installing the robot at your home, taking care of everything so that you can basically enjoy a cocktail on your terrace or start barbecuing whilst the mower is out on the field.
Because most of them are high-ticket items, and experience and convenience is also part of the premium product proposition, I guess. So if you want to do it everything yourself, sometimes too much DIY is just diminishing the experience. You need a little bit of balance.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. I mean, we have certainly, I mean, Husqvarna is a premium brand, as I pointed out before. We have also affordable robotic mowers in the entry level. But then, I mean, if you want to buy a high quality product for your garden and complexity, and these days you find a lot of offers at DIY stores for robotic mowers, you find a lot of brands out there. But then you not find that many brands who have 30 years of experience in that space and who knows how a complex garden looks like, how to deal with certain shady places in the garden, etc. And that's then where, as you said, I mean, the experience is crucial. I mean, you don't want to buy a box for 2,000 euro plus item and then being stuck in your garden, not knowing how to get it up and running.
So this brings another question, because I've been in that boat, omnichannel experience, combining direct-to-consumer fulfillment and experience with the omnichannel partner massive capabilities. But then you have a lot of touch points where you can drop the ball, you can a lot of first points, you can make an error and consumer gets a bad experience. So in Husqvarna and your team, what strategies do you implement and to ensure the brand consistency across both at e-commerce, online and physical retail channels are seamless, consistent, and consumer gets the same experience across different channels?
Yeah, I think the point you just mentioned is key. It's consistency. It's right.
Yeah.
It's ensuring that the messaging that we are providing as a brand is really crystal clear. The imagery we are providing, the assets we are providing. You see the same assets on our side. You see them at our channel partners. You see them at the physical stores. And for many years, when we had mainly sales in our physical retail or physical channel partner stores, of course, it was all about the POS experience. How do we enhance that, etc. There we started quite early with digital signage projects. How do we ensure that we transport the right messages into the store, etc. These days, we have, of course, a lot of our channel partners operating own e-com sites as well. And that's something where we want to support them equally and where we want to ensure that if you're operating an e-com site where you're selling our products, and you have the best and the greatest content, the best and the greatest assets. So we are running a huge pan-European content syndication project where basically as a channel partner from us, you get pre-built PDP templates that we are plugging into your sites and ensuring really consistency across all the touch points that we have.
All right. Now you got into one of my favorite areas. Because you mentioned the keyword that I dedicated 3-4 years of my career, PDP, leaning to digital shelf. So, okay, you know better than me, and probably most of the audience notice as well. When you talk about PDP, digital shelf, suddenly data and analytics is a big part of the conversation. And I'm a big advocate of data analytics literature across multiple functions. We don't need to code, we don't need to be data scientists, but we need to have a foundational understanding of how data works under the hood. In Husqvarna, 30 years of experience in a dedicated category is a big undertaking. How does Husqvarna utilize data analytics to optimize the digital shelf performance, manage the product inventory, and also PDP digital content across different channels? What do you do when it comes to data analytics support, data analytics infrastructure to maintain your digital shelf?
Yeah, no, data is central to our strategy. I mean, we started very early on, even before, let's say, buzzwords like or dedicated data teams became a topic, right? I mean, we
Yes.
track customer behavior, we track inventory levels at our partners, we track sales performance. And of course, where possible, we track all of that in real time. And imagine, I mean, our robots, at least, let's say the ones from the last 10 plus years, are all connected, right? So we have a lot of insights in which gardens they are driving, when they are operating, etc. And that is data that we are leveraging, but there's also data that we are sharing with our channel partners. And again, that's great even for the channel partners who are not really interested in operating an e-com site. We provide them with a lot of insights. We provide them with what kind of products are interesting in your area, because we know exactly from visits on our side, on visits on other sites, which products in a particular region, which products are more relevant in Amsterdam versus in Berlin versus in Munich, right? So that's data that we proactively share also with our channel partners and help them to also guide them on what's the opportunities around their area where they are locally active, etc. So I would say data is really, for any brand and any company out there, crucial, but it's key for us since many years.
And I'm coming into a little more media budget and finance sensitive topic around media. I'm sure you're utilizing your data towards your media activations, towards your media campaigns when you're driving those traffic to the retailer on the channel side or your brand side. But how is retail media conversation going on right now in your team's Husqvarna? What role does retail media play in your overall e-commerce strategy? Are you heavily investing on retail media? Or because of your D2C power and brand positioning, you're more relying on organic power? And yet, the second segment of the question is, how do you measure? Because a lot of folks have measurement problems. With retail media investment happening on your end, are you able to measure satisfactory?
So retail media, just as a bit of an insight for you, as you are maybe not fully aware of what's going on in the European DIY industry, I would say retail media is really the big booming topic over the last 12, 24 months. Not all of the big channel partners are offering retail media capabilities these days. It's just the very big ones who started basically with that. And important to understand, we haven't touched on that one. Husqvarna in Europe is working with a so-called selective distribution system. So we only work with a handful of big box retailers. We primarily work with specialized, localized dealers. We have a strong dealer network across Europe. They obviously don't run retail media activities. However, of course, our team was very intrigued by the retail media opportunities which are out there. So we reached out, and that's maybe an interesting case to speak about. We reached out to Obi last year. Obi is one of the largest DIY players in Europe, pretty much the equivalent to a Home Depot in the States and other kind of players. And Obi was in our industry, if I'm not mistaken, also one of the very early ones who started first retail media activities. And our products, and that's interesting, our products are not listed with Obi, right? Whilst we are a gardening DIY brand in the wider sense, we are not selling our products through Obi. So we approached Obi and asked, hey, we would be interested in your retail media activities. However, we are a so-called non-endemic brand for you,
right?
Whilst playing in your industry. And they, for a moment, thought like, yeah, that there is not really an option. But in the end, we figured out something, and we did, I think, in our industry, the very first non-endemic retail media case last year with Obi, and have successfully introduced a new product range to the target audience of Obi, and accelerated that with both digital ads on Obi's website, as well as leveraging their first-party data then for Meta ads, Google ads, etc. So that was a huge success for us and Obi as well. I think they are still showcasing the case today to their clients as a great best case example. And you asked about how we measure that, and obviously, I mean, the good case for us was, as it was a non-endemic campaign, we actually drove traffic then from Obi to our site. And that's very often, if you discuss with retailers about retail media, this is a no-go, because they don't want to send traffic off their site, right? But we, as we have a great relationship with Obi, and as we are one of the innovators both in our industry, we came up together with that and openly shared the data points. And so we could actually track versus many other brands, what's the real impact? How many customers are ending up on our site? How many customers really converting then at the end of the day? So I can't tell you, as we are stock listed, I can't tell you any concrete data points, but I can tell you that it was very successful for us. And it's definitely something that we are investigating further, also with other retail partners. My big measurement for retail media these days, and very often I ask that question, how are you handling non-endemic? And are you even open for non-endemic? Because that's often where you can at a first glimpse already guess how serious a retailer means it with retail media.
Right.
And the good ones who really see retail media as, it's the same point as I made earlier. It's always the question, what's in it for the customer? And at that point, for the retailer, the customer is the brand, right? So if the retailer is not just interested in optimizing their own profit margin through retail media, etc., then you can have a serious conversation with them and actually can build up some nice cases.